Hi, I'm Amanda.
And I'm Allison.
Welcome to another episode of Simply Sapphic.
A little disclaimer, if you're watching on YouTube, ignore the sign behind me. We rebranded after recording this episode.
And in this episode, we're going to be talking about how to deconstruct compulsory heterosexuality.
There we go.
This is actually take 2.
It sure is.
Because we had a very needy cat in the first one.
Walking all over the couch.
Which was adorable.
So cute.
It was like, oh, maybe Lily can be like...
It was a very exciting idea.
Like
very distracting in execution.
Yes, emotional support cat for a very heavy topic, but then we were like talking and then like I'd be like looking at Lily and I'd be like losing my train of thought.
I would forget everything we were supposed to talk about.
Oh my god, I wonder if we can like add in clips of how distracted we were by this cat.
We absolutely should. Just 2 of us going.
It's so true.
So we're doing this again.
So know that the intent was there to have a emotional support cat for this super heavy topic, but alas, we need to actually be coherent for it.
Yeah, we had to be able to focus.
Yes, exactly. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I think we can just jump right into it.
Let's do it.
Again.
We're going to jump right into it as if we didn't before.
If, just pretend this is the first time we've said all of this. We didn't get too far into it. We got like 5 minutes into the episode, but we were like, we can't do this.
We have to start over.
Yep. Okay, so compulsory heterosexuality, really big word. It's also known as like Comphet, heteronormativity, but it's basically a phenomenon where in society, like basically society pressures you to adhere to heterosexual norms from a super young age. And what's kind of insidious about compulsory heterosexuality is that like people will be like, oh, like I don't think I even know what that is, or I don't even think that's real,
or I don't think that actually impacts me.
Yeah, I don't think that actually impacts me. But like if you think about the subconscious ways that media and everything can affect you, like advertising, like subconsciously trying to get you to buy things, like how a couple seconds a day can influence how your brain works. Think about like a lifetime of continuous things enforcing heterosexuality
that you may not notice is happening.
That's
where it's really powerful, because it's not like, hi, I'm in your face, I'm influencing you, I'm telling you how to live. It's just like subtle suggestions throughout your whole life. Yes.
And so what are some examples of compulsory heterosexuality?
Well, I think one of the big ones that we talk about is like kids movies, especially like princess-based movies where like her life is like, okay. And then it gets, I was like trying to think through all the Disney movies and I was like, okay, their lives like, Cinderella's life is like a total bummer.
A mess.
It's a mess, but her life gets exponentially better when she meets the prince. And when the prince brings all the goodness in her life. Same with like, you see this repeated thing about, she has her life, it gets way better when she gets the prince and she's finally happy and like all the problems are solved and everything is really good, but not until she gets the boy.
Yes, I think that's even just outside of like kids movies, there's so much emphasis on romance. Like my life sucked until I met a man. Like the crescendo or climax of my life started when I met a man. Like you get married. We were watching Love Island UK, like an earlier season, and in there somebody like they're like, oh, like you were picked by a man, that's how it all starts. Like a man picked you. And so it's really interesting, like just looking at the media we consumed as children that kind of enforced, especially for AFAB people, oh, your life doesn't begin until a man picks you.
Yeah. And if that's like already how you've kicked off learning about how you're going to have relationships throughout life, that sets you up for like a lot of what Comphet brings later on into adulthood.
I mean, there's so many other ways that Comphet shows up outside of media.
I even think like this is media, but like ads. Ads are a really big one. You see like a happy family and like an insurance ad, and it's typically like cis male, cis female. And it's like, all right, like they're like, oh, we love our car insurance, or like really fancy car commercials. It's like with cis male with cis female.
Yeah.
And it's like together we are happier rather than independently.
And I think it's interesting because that narrative is shifting where you do see more queer representation in media, but like
do you remember that one Hinge ad we saw?
Oh, yeah.
Hinge? And we screamed.
God. We love Hinge. We met on Hinge.
Thank you, Hinge.
But we were watching probably Love Island.
It was Love Island. It was definitely
and this
Love
ad
Island.
Comes up for Hinge, and it's like, it's two
queer people
It's two Sapphic people, and we screamed. We were like, look.
I mean, that was like, oh, like that's the first time in my life I've seen a dating app that like felt like it was speaking right to me, because typically, you know, it's cis females and cis males like all up in there.
And these people, they were like gender non-conforming.
Yeah.
And it was just like so beautiful. I was like, oh, this is incredible.
Yeah.
It was like them in a field. It was just so great.
Yeah.
But it is changing. But if you think about like the way that especially millennials grew up, we didn't grow up with like anything. Like our queer representation was Ellen and
like maybe Modern Family when that came out.
Sure, Modern Family.
But that's
Rosie
not all. That's
O'Donnell.
also not Sapphic.
Yeah. And so that's true. And so it's just like when you don't have like the only representation of love, and in a lot of cases finding fulfillment in your life is finding a heterosexual mate.
Yeah.
Like that subconsciously is going to get you. Especially,
it starts to teach you.
It starts to teach you, especially as AFAB people, because we're like, oh, I'm not going to be happy until I find a man.
Yeah. Until I find my Prince Charming.
Yeah. I mean, it continues out, like children's toys.
Oh my gosh.
Like gendered children's toys.
Yeah.
Like this says, okay, this is your place. This is your gender norm. This is your personality.
Girls get kitchen stuff.
Yep.
They get the soft pink stuff. They get the dresses. They get the baby dolls. I never, like, you never see baby dolls marketed towards boys.
Cis boys. Yeah, that's really interesting. I'm like, I'm sure there is, but yeah, and it's like, okay, if you're a cis little boy and you want to play with dolls, that's considered gay,
which is considered a bad, like in that context it's used as an insult.
Yes, which is awful. And then like going into like high school, like prom king and queen, you know, like couple of the season, which
I'm curious if that's changed now in some high schools. I have no idea.
I have no idea either.
If you know, let us know, because I'm super fascinated to see if that's evolved or changed. I feel like where we're from, it's probably the exact same.
Oh yes. Yeah, probably. And then like continuing on, you and I had a really interesting discussion about proposing.
Oh yeah.
As a form of compulsory heterosexuality that emphasizes
a man picks you.
A man has to do the picking.
Yeah.
And you have to wait. Even if you like want a cis man to propose to you, like you can't do that. Like you can't claim the narrative of your own life because you're assigned female at birth.
And you're waiting for the man to choose you, to get down on one knee. And even when that, like when it's reversed and we see the opposite proposal, like the response, at least from what I've seen, has not been entirely positive.
Yeah.
You know, it's all like, oh, like why did she have to be the one to do it?
Yeah.
You know,
it's like seeing like
why not?
Like she did it out of desperation because he wouldn't.
Yeah. Like, is he less of a man? It's like, no, maybe that's just how the relationship works. But even like when you look at like engagement, wedding advertisements and things like that, it's like when he picks you on that great day when you are his.
Yeah, exactly.
And that just teaches you, like, that's what subconsciously, that is what marriage and this whole process is supposed to look like.
Yep.
And you're going to be happy in it.
Yes, and this is how you're going to be happy. And then, you know, like, I feel like the narrative of, okay, I found this heterosexual love oftentimes, especially, I mean, obviously, if you're a queer person and you think that you're going to find happiness only after a man picks you, a cis man picks you, and then a cis man picks you, and then you're unhappy because you're queer. Yeah. And society lied to you because they said this is the format. There's so many, like, templates. There's, like, I think there's a single template that compulsive heterosexuality gives to you, and it's like you have to follow these gender norms so that you know, your heterosexual partner will pick you, and then you've served your purpose in society.
Yeah, you did it. You've made it.
Have babies, go work till you're 65, and then
the end. Go work if he wants you to.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh yeah. If your husband lets you.
Well, that's a deeper. Well, that will be part 2 of this conversation.
Yep.
But I mean, I think even at a broader scale, like even our own laws enforce this idea. I mean, before marriage equality, our legal system said this is how it has to be.
So it's like, it's compulsive. Like, it is illegal to go against heterosexuality.
It is not even a choice.
It's so funny because people are like, oh, I don't know if compulsive heterosexuality is a thing. And it's like, literally look at, it was illegal to not be heterosexual.
Yes, you legally could not get married.
I mean, it was illegal to get married. It was illegal to show affection. It was illegal, you know, like during a lot of our history in Western culture, it was illegal to not be heterosexual.
Yeah.
And so when people say, I don't know what compulsive heterosexuality is, I don't think it exists, bullshit.
It totally does.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. It's so embedded into us that it's in our laws, it's in our religion.
And that's why I think queerness is such an interesting like threat to the patriarchy. We have forced people into this box to be so small, and queerness says, oh, I think I don't like that box. I'm going to step outside of it, and I'm going to do things the way that feel good to me.
Yeah.
And society just wants you to conform.
Yeah, because the more you conform, the easier it is to control the group as a whole.
Ding, ding, ding.
You know? Yeah, wild.
Yes.
So there's so many ways that it shows up in our lives. And as you're like going through the world, like try to notice it more. You know, like when you're watching TV, think like, okay, why? What is this teaching me? Mm-hmm. You know, if I'm just sitting here watching this, like, what is this telling me?
Yeah,
it just kind of blows things out of the water.
I mean, if you just think about like the stuff that you expose yourselves to in low doses and how that adds up, you know, like think about how society has shaped you to be the person that you are. I kind of had an existential crisis about that when I first came out, because I was like, oh, I don't think I know who I am. Like, I know who society taught me to be.
Yeah.
Because I dressed like thinking back on my style, like I genuinely did dress for the male gaze. I was like, okay, Amanda, you have assets. You've got some titties, you know, you've got a nice butt, like,
and they're very nice.
Thank you, baby. But like, I was like, you have to show them off. So I wore like low cut t-shirts, you know,
show them off for men,
because I was like, okay, I'm getting older, but I still have these what men want, which is physical, you know. And so that's what I'm doing to attract them. And when I came out, it was really interesting because I was like, okay, let's take a look at how I'm dressing. Literally, what is my personality? You know, like I was taught like smile and laugh at all the right times, you know, like be agreeable. Like you could talk about that. You were in a literal like gender cult.
Oh yeah, I mean, the religious group I was in college that was like very legalistic had whole evenings called like women's night, where they gathered like all of the AFAB people in the room, and they would tell us like article by article what clothing we were allowed to wear. What were some clothing that you were allowed to wear? Okay, it's easier to say what we aren't allowed to wear.
Oh, okay.
So like one really big one was yoga pants.
They are of the devil.
They are of the devil. And the whole idea is that you have to cater and change how you look in order not to make your men in Christ stumble. So it's like
your fellow men in Christ.
Your fellow men in Christ, right? So it's like, don't wear anything revealing because that's going to turn them on. And by you doing that, you're causing them to sin, and you're not the bad guy. You're like
awful.
You're like a catalyst for the devil. So like sparkly butt jeans was a very big no-no. They like highlighted that one very clearly. Any tank tops with the lace on the bottom?
Ooh. Not on the bottom.
Not good.
What about on the top?
No, anywhere. No lace. Zero lace. It was too much like lingerie. And it would like, they're like, it's going to make the men think about sex. So don't wear that. Any like V-neck things, spaghetti straps. It was very much encouraged that like, you don't show off your features. Don't show off if you have any curves. No, you don't. Hide those bad boys. All for the sake of like protecting the men, as if the men have no agency.
Which is disgusting. I could go off on that topic, but we won't. But yeah, that's awful.
But that's Comphet.
Yes,
it's like we have to alter how you live for men.
I mean,
because that's what you live for. That's the patriarchy as well.
Yeah. I mean, there's a story that you told me about a boyfriend that you had. Can you tell that?
Yes. Okay. So in college, I was in a I think it was 18, 19. For that age, a pretty long relationship. And he sat me down at the cafeteria area.
And this is when you guys were still in the
This is when we were in the height of the cult.
Great.
Of this like grouping. And he sat down with me and he looked me in the eyes and he said, I need you to submit to me more. What? And I lost my mind on him. I gave him a piece of my mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was like, absolutely not. How dare you speak to me this way? I will like not be submitting to anybody.
And so then did you stay with him after that, or what did that look like?
I sure did.
You sure did? And that's because why?
Well, because when I had broken up with him for the first time, unfortunately, somebody who was very influential in my life told me, well, Allison, who else is going to love you? Exactly.
Oh, baby.
And at that time, I was like, you're so right. If a man doesn't love me, then who else can?
Yeah.
And so I was like, great. And so I took some time, and then I was like, okay, I guess I'll just like pray a lot, and God will make this relationship work.
That is just, it's so fucked up how there's just so many like little like tendrils going in and trying to like influence you, because it's just like, yeah. I mean, I had relationships like that where like I had a really long relationship, and at the end of it, kind of a similar thing. It's like, oh, okay, if he doesn't want me, who will?
Yeah, and that's Comphet.
Yeah.
There's a whole world of who will.
Oh, yeah.
But compulsive heterosexuality wants you to believe that it's only men.
Yes.
That get to love you as an AFAB person.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we're really bleeding into patriarchy, but I think they're hand in hand.
Oh,
it's
I think
really like
it all comes together in a package.
The systems that are put in place to control us. Yeah. Right. But yeah, super, super hand in hand. Yeah. I mean, it's just really interesting because like compulsory heterosexuality for me, I think is like the number one factor why I didn't know I was queer until I was 30.
Ooh, how so?
I mean, I genuinely, like, even after I came out, I was sitting there and I was like, I had to grieve the fact that I didn't think I was going to be happy then, you know?
Yeah.
Because I was so desperate for happiness, because I was a pretty unhappy kid.
Yeah.
My sisters, probably my family would probably disagree, because I was like the oldest, and I had to be like, Amanda, you have to take care of your family. Like, you have to put on a face. Like, you need to take care of everybody. But like, I was super bullied. I had really low self-esteem. I had like, I was very socially awkward.
Yeah, you just weren't allowed to show it.
I just wasn't allowed to show it. When I saw the potential of happiness and not being abandoned in a heterosexual relationship, I was like, I have a problem. It's unhappiness. It's depression. And the solution is a man picks me. And I decided I would become the perfect version of a woman in order to get picked.
Wow.
Right? And so I changed my entire personality to be agreeable.
That's a huge undertaking too.
Yes.
Because that's so subjective for what is perfect.
I mean, yeah, exactly. But I let like the people that I was dating and like my like AFAB friends kind of tell me like, okay, like, you know, you guys got into an argument, but like you need to be the bigger person and like let him kind of have what he wants.
Wow.
And I'd be like, okay. And so like coming out and deconstructing, like I think, I don't know, it's hard to look back on, because there's so much like swirling in my head of like, okay, I need to redefine what happiness is. I need to redefine what my personality is and figure out who I am without the influence of society and who society told me to be. Because I would take on, like, I dated a guy and he was like, we walked into Guitar Center and I was like, oh, I really want a ukulele. And he went, oh, you should play guitar instead. It's like way better. And I was like, you're right. So I got a guitar. I dyed my hair blonde because a guy said that he likes blondes. Like, I was like so desperate for anything that would help me not be abandoned, you know?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, when I came out, I was like, okay.
Which society and the people around you, whether inadvertently or not, says that that's a man.
Yes, a man has to dictate what, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they'll make sure that you're not abandoned. Yeah, when I first came out, something that it took me a while to like really deconstruct and come to peace with was I felt really embarrassed that I had dated men. And I felt like in some way it kind of invalidated. I was worried it would invalidate my queerness if anybody knew that I did. And how would I go about talking about it, when really that's the only option that I knew. Yeah, I didn't know that there was an alternative option that I could take until I became aware of it.
And so when you came out, did you have to go through any process of like, I don't know, like not forgiving yourself for dating cis men in a heterosexual way, but like, you know, what was that process to kind of like deconstruct that?
I really had to look at it for what it was one, it was the only option that I knew. I was a person who wanted love, rightfully so. And the way that it was packaged for me in order to get that was that I was going to have a husband. I was going to get married, and it was going to be God ordained, and it was going to be perfect and wonderful. And so like a lot of people who want love, that's the pathway that I knew. And when I think back to it, I think that, okay, it's not that it was invalidating of my queerness at all. It's that my queerness didn't even know how to express itself or even have room to express itself. And so the only way the only pathway it knew to take was this one.
Mm-hmm.
Which doesn't make me any less queer. It never did make me any less queer. In fact, it finally explained why there were so many things that I didn't feel.
Yes.
When I was dating those people, and I stopped, and it helped me to stop from taking it personally.
Mm-hmm.
And rather I was like, okay, actually now this is affirming my queerness, because now I'm able to look at that and go, okay, well, everyone around me had boyfriends. I was told that's how I was going to get love, but now I understand why I couldn't feel those feelings that some of my peers were feeling. It's actually led me further into my queerness and feeling really solid in that.
I love this.
Yeah.
I'm going to say something really spicy.
I love it.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
So you know how a lot of like heterosexual people say that gay people groom children?
Yeah.
We were the ones who were groomed.
100%.
1,000% we were the ones who were groomed. And so I think like a lot of what I had to face and what I think a lot of people have to face is we need to forgive ourselves, not that we were unaware of our queerness, we didn't do enough to discover our queerness, we didn't see the signs, like we were literally groomed.
Yeah.
And like congratulations if you were able to break out of that to become queer now.
It is a hard road. It can be a hard road to get there.
Yes. And honestly I think like if queer people do the process of undoing how compulsive heterosexuality has like affected our personalities, our relationships, how everything, like it's gonna make us stronger, because we took a hard look at what society told us to be, and we consciously went, no, I'm gonna decide,
I'm gonna choose.
Yeah.
I remember growing up, it would always be a topic of conversation that like one day you're gonna meet your husband and he'll be the head of the household. And I have like distinct memories of sitting at my dining room table with my family and saying, no, I want to be the head of my household. And how the response to that was, that's not what you're supposed to do. That's not what God wants. It needs to be the man's job, or you're invalidating him.
Yeah. Yeah, it was super interesting, because now you're dating me, and we kind of realized that like there is no such thing as head of household.
No.
If we don't want there to be, and we are the household.
Yes, you and I make the rules in the household however we want them.
And
But this thinking still impacts the queer community, especially when it's not deconstructed. I oftentimes think of like the archetype of like, especially in a sapphic relationship, like who's the boy one and who's the girl one.
In all queer
relationships. And that is a product of Comphet.
Yes.
That is saying that there needs to be a boy one and there needs to be a girl one. And so what roles do you fall in? You know, who's the one that doesn't cry? You know, probably that has to go to the boy one.
Yeah.
You know, who's the more affectionate one that's a caretaker? Probably the air quotes girl one.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, it's interesting because, compulsive heterosexuality, even if you do the deconstructing, like it's so hard to break against like such a mainstream, like, I don't know, not vibration, but like it's everywhere. It tells you
all
what to
over.
do. I do think that when people come out and they are like, okay, I'm now masc, do I need to start being more stoic, you know?
And
like,
my answer is no.
But I mean, and then there's the concept of like, oh, I'm gonna be like, I don't know, like I'm trying not to say hey mom is lesbian, but it is a hey mom is lesbian of like, oh, I have to be like super like swag, like have a lot of swag and try to pick up on the ladies and kind of be a ladies guy. Or as the kids would say,
like Riz.
The Riz, you know.
Yeah.
And then if you want to be a femme, you have to be like you know, like a, you know, and so it's like, okay, if you want to follow these gender roles because it makes you happy, like do that,
go for it.
But also like we don't have to be toxic versions of masculinity and femininity.
No,
you and I, like we're very equal. We're both like there. I don't think I believe in like who's the head of the household, who's the boy one. Like you have the short haircut, so people are like, oh, you're the boy one. And like I used to have really long hair, so I guess I could have been the girl one. But like it's very equal. Like there's no like who's the big spoon, you know, like who's the top.
We're both equally big spoon.
Yeah, we're both equally big spoon. And so it's like if you don't want that to be in your relationship, then don't do that.
You don't have to. I don't believe in gender roles at all.
No, I mean neither do I, but it does bring me joy to express myself on like my femininity, whatever that means,
and whatever that means to you,
exactly,
which is amazing, because masculinity can also mean something totally different to you as it does to me, as it does to our neighbor, as it does to like somebody else thousands of miles away. And I think that's the beauty of it, that they're all self-defined, but that's something that Comphet does not want to have happen.
No,
because they have defined it for you.
And I mean, it's interesting because like if you bring up gender roles in a relationship, people will be like, oh, that's evolutionarily how we have evolved, you know, like the cis men will go off hunting and be the providers, and the cis women will stay at home and take care of the kids and gather. I don't know, you know what I mean? And it's just like, okay, yes, and we could have also mixed, you know, like AFAB and AMAB and intersex people could all go off and go hunting, depending on what their skills were. And like it's just like,
and also just to like look at it this way too, we're not at that time anymore.
Yes,
we're not there.
Exactly. Yeah,
time has passed, things have changed.
And it's like okay, you know, in today's economy we probably need both of us working, but also
it's expensive.
It's freaking expensive. But also like, okay, we both are helping out around the house, we're both doing all these things, and so it's just like gender roles just like don't play a part in our relationship. We do things according to our capacity and our interests and things that we like,
rather than how we are assigned at birth or how we present.
Exactly. I'd be like, baby, I have to cook tonight because I was born female and I look more female.
Absolutely, you know? Not.
Right.
I'm like, why don't we cook? Because we like to.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, the conversation more looks like, hey, do you have the energy to cook today? And I could be like, I absolutely do.
Yeah. Even the division of labor in queer relationships, it's like, okay, you know, we don't have to adhere to these norms. Yeah. No matter what, and we can sit down with our partner, and it could be different for every single partner that we individually have. Yeah. But it's just like, okay, what do we like to do? Yep. How do we want to support each other? How do we want to show up?
Yeah, I even think like some of these TikTok accounts that are talking about like stay-at-home masks, it's moving ourselves into a way of deconstructing these gender roles. You know, and I don't, you know, it may never be perfect, and I think we'll always have new ways to look at things and new ways to go, but I think even like viewing it this way is a way to at least start bringing in gender expectations into conversations. You know, because if this were to adhere itself to the gender roles that Comphet really pushes towards, it would be, you know, the stay-at-home femme, the working masc. And so even by kind of like flipping that narrative, we start to slowly bring into question what we've been taught or what we have subconsciously learned throughout time. And I think that is a step forward.
Agree. It's a step forward, but I think like the ultimate like place we want to get to is like we don't have to call it stay-at-home masks, because that's still like emphasizing and basing that kind of that role in the household toward gender.
Exactly.
Right? It's like, okay, we're breaking it because we just switched it, but still like the formula that we're working in is still heterosexuality. Yeah, so it's just like,
it still implies the boy one and the girl one. Yeah. And now the boy one's just doing something a little different. Yeah. And I think hopefully what I think in the future is that we'll just be able to be like, I stay at home because it works for us.
Because it works for me. Yeah.
And it works for me.
Yeah.
You know, and without any gender identifiers or, you know, presentation identifiers.
Yeah. Okay. So how do we actually start deconstructing Comphet?
I think a great way to start is just by, as you go through life, taking a moment to sit and decide, is this something that I want to do, or is it something that I have been made to want? And just start opening up that conversation with yourself.
In like a kind way, and not like a non-judgmental way. Yeah. Because I was like, I think I was a little bit angry. I was like, oh, look at the way, like how embarrassing you dressed so like scantily clad. Not scantily clad, but like just ways that didn't feel like me, like
just inauthentic to yourself.
Inauthentic to myself. I was like embarrassed by it, but it's like, be gentle. Just being like, okay, this is how I thought I had to do it. What a celebration that I now can think about if that serves me.
When I gave myself the permission to not wear makeup anymore was like a very big deal for me, because I sat down and I was like, I have been made to feel like I want this, and I don't. And so then I stopped. And it was so freeing. I think that's so, especially with makeup, like, and like any gender euphoria that you have from just showing up, like just showing your face. Like, I think it's just beautiful. Yeah. Yeah. I think just in general, just like giving yourself permission to show up as you want. Yeah. And not thinking about it like,
oh, I have to do the opposite, and that's gonna break gender conformity and heterosexual norms. Just be like, oh, I really do want to stay home, not because I was assigned female at birth, but because I want to.
Yep.
You know, like, I actually do want to wear makeup, not because I was assigned female at birth, but because I want to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, do things for you. Don't do them for the male gaze. Past Amanda, you know, and anyone else who kind of has a similar story to me.
Yeah.
But like, just do things that feel authentic to you. And I do also want to acknowledge that figuring out what's authentic to you takes time.
Yeah.
It takes like rebuilding trust with your body.
And trial and error.
Like, I can't remember if I talked about this in an earlier episode or not, but like, I went through, so when I first came out, I was like, I'm gonna give myself like an emo phase where I dressed all in black, did like heavy makeup, and like wore fishnets, right? I did that for a few weeks, and then I was like, okay, now I didn't really like, that was really fun, but I think that's not authentically me. So then I was like, okay, now I want to try boy clothes, and I tried boy clothes for a while, and then I was like, okay, that doesn't feel authentically me, you know. And I basically gave myself permission to try on a bunch of different things,
which is incredible.
Yeah. And I think that's, personally, that really worked super well to say that I tried it and then say that I didn't like it, or I really did like it, and that helped me settle in to figure out what I wanted.
And that it sounds so nice because it also puts you really into conversation with yourself to like start to really learn when your body and your soul and your heart are saying yes, and when they're saying maybe not this, or maybe they're saying I think we need a little bit more time in this to see.
I'm sorry, I think I just burped into the mic. But yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think also when you come into a relationship, holding firm to things that feel authentic to you and knowing when to compromise, you know, like, yeah, just I think it's interesting when you put it into the lens of a relationship, because it's like, okay, what if we both, well, I don't know if we want to air this, but we have been discussing like whether or not we want kids. And that's just been like a topic for us. Like, after we get married, would that be something that we want in our future? And both of us, as AFAB people with uteruses, decided, I don't want to get pregnant.
Yeah, neither of us want to get pregnant.
And so, like, regardless of gender, regardless of who, you know, like, you were like, oh, you had all these reasons, like, it would give me like gender dysphoria. It would give me,
my mental health would tank.
My physical health and mental health would tank, and it, you know, just things that I know that are personal to me. But like, just because society says you have 2 uterus bearing humans, one of you has to get pregnant, we were like, no, there's no rule.
Yeah, we make our own rules,
you know, so we'll probably adopt, or we'll do surrogacy if that's a thing for us. And so it's like, okay, just, I think that conversation that we had, like, it felt really good because it was both of us holding to our truths.
Yeah.
And also compromising.
That's what I love about queerness.
Oh yeah.
It's just so much what you want to make yourself, and so much of what you want, and standing so wonderfully in that is just, I think, even coming out is also like looking at Comphet in the face and being like, haha,
yeah,
you know, like, gotcha. Yeah. Like, you know, I was slowly deconstructing it, and maybe one day, and I think one day we're gonna get there, but compulsive heterosexuality may become an obsolete topic.
I hope so.
And that would be incredible.
It would be so incredible, because then you can just make decisions based on of you and not what society told you to do.
So I feel like that's the message of today.
Do what you want. Don't hurt anybody. Stand in your joy.
Yep. Do what you want. You make your own rules in your life. Society doesn't get to make those rules for you.
Yep.
Whatever you want that to look like.
Yay. Great. Amazing. Should we go into our Sapphic fun fact? Sapphic fun fact.
Yes, let's do it.
Okay. I think you went first last time, so I'll go first this time. So, did you know that in the year of our Lord, or were we just talking about religion?
We were.
Neither of us are religious, but like, in the year of our Lord 2024, there are 32 lesbian bars.
Too low
in the US.
That's not even one per state.
That's not even per se. It's really interesting. Well, and New York has like 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah,
like,
it has the
so
bulk
many
of them.
So yeah, it's interesting because in 2020, it says, I'm going to read this. But in 2020, there was something called the Lesbian Bar Project.
Yeah.
And it was basically like a project to fund lesbian bars, to create sapphic spaces, because it's so hard to uphold and fund these sapphic spaces because it's so niche, right? And so, yeah, there's only 32 bars left in the US.
Wow.
That's the fun fact.
Oh my goodness. It's fun and kind of sad.
Fun and kind of sad.
Fun in a different way.
Yep.
We love
if you are thinking about starting, if you're an entrepreneur that specializes in social spaces, you should add your name to the list of lesbian bars.
Yeah, get yourself on there.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, mine is, did you know the first lesbian, this is US based, the first lesbian kiss to air on primetime TV was in 1991.
That's the year I was born.
In
this is affirming.
It was a gift. It was a gift. It was in February.
Okay.
So they were like, Amanda's coming. And it was on the show LA Law.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
1991.
We love this. 1991.
Yep.
What a good year.
What a good year.
You know what happened is I was like, I see the first lesbian kiss. It's time to emerge.
And you were just like, it's me.
It's coming.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
coming
yeah.
out.
Like,
wow. I'm coming out.
Da, da.
Amazing.
Awesome.
Great.
Yay.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for listening. We will see you next time.
I'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in.
Be sure to subscribe, follow us on social media,
And share episodes with your friends.
see you next time.